Hi, my name is Tai. I'm the creative director here at Imago DA, and basically, we are a creative agency here in the heart of Ibadan, Nigeria. We have a big dream, right, of making global brands out of local African businesses. Okay, and our major channel right now that we do this is by trying to create the ultimate visual experiences that we possibly can, whether it's with a billboard or with a printed material or with a social media feed. We task ourselves to create the utmost, basically, my words usually are the ultimate visual experience that we can possibly create for the audience of anybody that we work with. Okay, so basically that's what we do, and but we also try to provide learning content, especially for small businesses, and one of the ways we do that is with Brand My Idea. Okay, and what we do with Brand My Idea is every Monday at 1 p.m. we take 30 minutes to just talk in very simple terms about different aspects of building a great brand. Okay, I can see Deji Alaka is here. I can see is Isaka Times. I'm not sure if I got that. Isaka Times, and welcome to Brand My Idea. All right. Today we want to try and do like a brand roundup. We want to talk about the world's most valuable brands right now, and what are they doing and how can we learn from them. What I always encourage that we do during Brand My Idea is, as much as we can, this is supposed to be interactive. That's why we're doing it on IG Live, and we are not just recording a video and putting it on. Hi Tife, welcome. Hi Positivia, welcome. Okay, and we're not just just recording a video and putting it out. So we want kickback, we want to really engage. Okay, so I'll just do like a roundup of, as at May, I guess, May 2020, what were the world's top 10 most valuable brands, and then we'll try and see what are these guys doing, how come they're so valuable, and then what can a small business learn from them, to up your own brand value. Okay, now, so I'll just start from the maybe I should do a bottom up. Number 10, I'll just do like a countdown. Okay, so the 10th most valuable brand in the world as at May 2020 was MasterCard, right? MasterCard, which is a payment service, was the world's most valuable brand as at May 2020. Number 9 was McDonald's. Number 8 was Facebook. Number 3 was a tech company known as Tencent. I'm sorry, my light keeps going off. Number 7 was Tencent. Number 6 was Alibaba, the Chinese e-commerce giant. Number 5 was Visa. Visa is also a payment. So remember, MasterCard was number 10. The number 5 was Visa. So you have two payment guys in the top 10. We have Google at number 4, and then we have Microsoft at number 3, and then Apple at number 2, and then Amazon number 1. So the world's most valuable brand as at May, there about the ending of May, was Amazon, right? So if I do it from number 1 to number 10, the world's most valuable brand, Amazon. Second was Apple. Third was Microsoft. Fourth was Google. Fifth was Visa. Sixth was Alibaba. Seventh was Tencent. Eighth was Facebook. Ninth, McDonald's, and 10 was MasterCard. Okay, world's most valuable brands. Maybe what I should do now is let me define what a brand value is, so that we can then from there we then talk around what are these guys doing and how can you apply them to your own business. What's a brand value? Basically, it's a figure to it. For example, the brand value of Amazon as at when this was done was about $415.9 billion. So the brand value, now not the value of the company, okay, but the brand value. There's some calculations that go into it, but they put a figure to the brand value, and as I made, that brand value was $415.9 billion in brand value. Now, what exactly does that value mean? It basically means the amount, how much more, as it were, like a sum total. It's like a sum total of how much more people will be willing to pay for that product, or or how often they choose that product over an alternative, the expectations, the memories and all of that attached to the product as opposed to the alternative. So it's like a difference. How much more combination of how much more, a combination of how often they would rather choose that brand, and so on and so forth, in comparison with the competitors. A lot of this, a larger part of this definition was put forward by, there's a marketing guru called Seth Godin, and he was the one that kind of put that definition to it. But I want to give a much simpler, everyday definition to what brand value is. It's basically like a measure of how rare what you are bringing to the table is. You know, I mean, think about it. If I found a banana shaped stone, you know, for example, if I found a banana shaped stone, I can put it out and say, this is the only one of its kind in the world, and therefore it goes for $2 million. Now, you can argue with your wall clock, but if you cannot find a banana shaped stone and you want a banana shaped stone, you'll be willing to pay whatever I ask you to pay for it, right? So what we say is brand value is how rare what you are bringing to the table is. Remember, definition of a brand basically is a perception. Your brand is not your product. Your brand is not what you are selling. It's a perception of what you are selling. Your brand is how people perceive your product. It's not your product itself. It's how your product is perceived, right? And how your product is perceived, the perception, the idea that people have of you, what your business is. And so how rare that is, whatever they perceive you to be, the rarity of that is the measure of your brand values. That's how valuable your brand is. Where can I find this? You know, if I line up 20 people who are doing the same thing that you're doing, do you all look alike, or is there some rarity in what you're bringing to the table? Now we would reverse back to our top 10 valuable brands. Welcome to those who are just joining. Let me pause. You know, earlier on in the episode, I did like a rundown of the world's top 10 valuable brands as I may, you know, and then we'll talk about them a little later. So, but right now I'm trying to put a definition to what brand value is, and so that we can then try and see how you can then apply it to your own business in the coming months. Especially, we're starting a new half of the year, and so how can you start to work towards making your brand more valuable? I always say that people do not buy products, they buy brands. Our marketplace is increasingly competitive, right? Especially in Africa and in Nigeria especially, the economic situation is forcing a lot of people into entrepreneurship, and so people are getting in more and more into buying and selling stuff, or selling a service, or offering a service, selling a product. Everybody is trying to make their own jobs, right? We know how terrible the job market is, and so there are people who are still searching for jobs, but increasingly the marketplace is more and more competitive. Chances are, whatever you are doing, whatever service you are rendering, you can line up in a minute 10 other people who are offering what you're doing on your fingertips, without, in Nigeria or wherever you're watching from now, without even blinking, right? So our marketplace is increasingly competitive, and so people are not necessarily buying just products. If I want to brush my teeth, for example, I'm not at a loss as to what I'm going to use to brush my teeth. There are tons of toothpaste that I can use to brush my teeth, right? So it's not, you're not really, if you say, oh, I want to start to make toothpaste, you're not really offering me anything that is different from what is already on ground. And it cuts across board. If you make shoes, there are maybe 20 other people in your very city who are making shoes. If you sell electronic gadgets, there are probably 20 other people right where you are who are selling electronic gadgets. The marketplace is competitive. People do not just buy products, they buy brands. They buy an idea. Sometimes that brand may be cheap, and so they buy cheap. Sometimes that brand may be, oh, I don't see this often, they buy that. But when we talk about brand value, we're saying figures now. How valuable is your brand? How much more would people be willing to pay for what you are bringing to the table? Not just your product, all that you represent. How much will people be willing to pay? What's the highest that people will be willing to pay for what you are bringing? How rare is what you are bringing to the table, right? How rare is it? Okay, and so that's basically, like in very simple terms, what brand value is. In other words, we can say that, is it easy to find what you are doing? Is it easy to anywhere else? Can I walk along the street and find that very thing that you are offering me? Is it so easy to really find what you are offering, or is it rare? Okay, and so the figures, that's really how we calculate brand value. For those just joining, I'll just quickly in 2 seconds I will do another just a quick rundown of, as at May 2020, what were the world's most valuable brands, right? The top most valuable brand was Amazon. Amazon is the e-commerce giant. Okay, Amazon was the world's most valuable brand. Next up was Apple. Third on the list was Microsoft. Fourth was Google. Fifth was Visa. Sixth, Alibaba. Seventh, Tencent. Eighth, Facebook. Ninth, McDonald's. And then 10th was MasterCard. Okay, and so let's try and let's look at them together in little time that we have, in terms of what I had said earlier about brand value. Okay, if you have comments, like I would always say, please throw them at the comment section. I really love to hear what you're thinking. Kick back at me, give me some feedback, but let's just really engage and interact together. Okay, so let's take the world's number one brand right now, Amazon. There are different aspects to a brand, obviously. There's the visual aspects to the brand, things like the brand assets, the logo, the all of that. Number one thing I wanted to just chip in about valuable brands is that, especially for small businesses, when you're trying to come up with a logo for your business, I want to just chip this in because it also helps your brand value. You want to ensure that your logo is instantly recognizable, but at the same time it is memorable. That means I'm not likely to see this anywhere else, but it is simple enough for me to know what you're saying in 2 seconds or less. Take Apple's logo, for example. It is so simple, but it is extremely memorable. You will always, when you see the Apple logo, but it's simple. It's Apple. It's very simple, but it is also very memorable. And because of the bites on the apple, you're not likely to see that logo anywhere else. Okay, right? Oh, beautiful. Fellow Care is saying something. So they say that recently Facebook dropped because of issues relating to privacy and racism. Their image was greatly affected, and ultimately their value dropped. As in, that's fantastic, right? Their value has really dropped, so they are number 8 now, again because of their privacy issues and then later racism. Again, like I said earlier, perception. Okay, when people begin to, when the perception of your brand is, a little, once it gets hit, once it gets impacted by anything, your brand value again drops. Okay, it's almost like saying, how much are people chasing after you? I heard somebody use this example, like, if you think back to your secondary school days, there's always that person, whether you're a guy or a girl, there's always that person that just seems like, or unattainable, and whether or not the person is actually a nice person or not, but because the person just seems far away and unattainable, they are valuable to everybody else. Everybody wants to be like them or be their friend, or however, whatever it is. So again, it's almost like saying, how much are people trying to chase after you? How much are people trying to look for you? But when that perception is affected, brand value, dives. It really nosedives. Sometimes it's recoverable, sometimes it's not. Again, people are very unpredictable. Trends change, all of that. In the top 100, for example, TikTok is a newcomer and they are doing very good. In fact, there are predictions that by the end of the year, TikTok should be really going up in terms of brand value. Again, I'll bring in the issue of rarity. I'm not sure of any other social media app that is offering what TikTok gives their users. Okay, so TikTok basically gives you so much creative freedom that you can't find anywhere else. They beat Instagram at it, right? So you had Instagram give you creative freedom, maybe to put up a video. YouTube also gives some kind of creative freedom, but TikTok just came and threw them off the table. So what TikTok is bringing is a creative freedom that you cannot find on any other app. You cannot find what you have on TikTok on any other app. It's just that simple. And so their brand value is going up really massively. The world's number one, Amazon. One of the things that Amazon does that helps them a lot is diversity in what they are offering. Amazon does so much. Okay, so it's not just e-commerce they are doing. There's the books, there's their e-books, there's their Kindle, they do so so much. Okay, Amazon Echo, there's this, there's that. So it's one of their, really effective strategies of really upping their brand value, because I'm not sure of any other brand that you will find such a range of product offerings in. Exactly, the Jalaka is echoing that Amazon is so diverse. I don't think there's any other platform or there's any other company that offers so many different kinds of things in one, under that one name. So when you say Amazon, that name represents so much. Okay, it represents so much in the tech space, in the retail space, in the literary space. They have presence in the literary space, they have presence in tech, they have presence in retail and manufacturing. They have everywhere, right? They just seem to have presence in all of these places. It's one of their most effective branding strategies. So of course their brand value will be upped. They are not really offering anything unique in each one of all these pockets of products. For example, the Amazon Kindle, you also have Barnes and Noble into ebooks. I think it's their own, is the Kobo, or is it the Kobo? I'm not sure if that's what they call theirs, but there are other ebook players in the marketplace anyway. Their home, whatever it is they're offering in terms of home. You have other people. Google is offering products similar to that. Even in e-commerce, Alibaba is doing a lot of what they're doing. But what they have done is they have now taken so many different kinds of products and then put it under one name, the Amazon name. And so you have that Amazon name really, really packing so much value, right? And so why not? Why is their brand value not high? Apple, on the other hand, offers something that you really would not. They have crafted a unique product. I heard a quote by Steve Jobs. I can't remember it verbatim, but he was saying something like, we don't have so much of a chance to make people remember us, and so we would, as much as we can, in the shortest time possible, want to carve something that will make us memorable, something like that. I'm paraphrasing a lot, but in something along that line. And so think of the Apple devices. Even from the construct of the devices, they make sure that the devices are different in how they look. The differences may not necessarily mean, in some instances it means better functionality, but that an Apple device is different from every other device. If you think of the Chinese phones, the Infinix, even the Huawei, Techno phones, that range of phones, they all look relatively alike. Even with the Samsungs, they kind of look alike, right? Apple just seems to have carved a unique identity in terms of how the phones look, the OS, how the OS looks, what it does. One of their key offerings is the uniqueness of how they look. Before we even talk about functionality, Apple has tried to distinguish themselves from every other smartphone, manufacturer or maker or OS, whatever, in how it looks. Right from the very first Apple Mac, the very first, and I'm trying to remember, I hope I'm correct, but whilst you had the other computers, personal computers back in the day, really having the same metallic, dull, maybe the black look, they all looked alike, right? IBMs and all of that looked basically alike. Apple came up with this green and white personal computer, and just it was different. They came in with difference, first of all, in terms of how the devices looked, before they now even went into how do you interact with it. Okay, so a lot of what Apple has invested in is the user interaction. In terms of the eyes, how the device looks, first of all, it's pleasing to the eyes, it's pleasing to hold, it's pleasing to touch. The OS is pleasing to interact with. They have these really nice vibrant colors. They kind of maintain things at a very simple level, so it's very simple. In all, Apple has tried to drive that uniqueness in terms of how it is, how the user plays with the device. You cannot get the same experience that you have with an Apple device anywhere else. You can't find it anywhere else, right? You can't find what you have with the Mac OS anywhere else. iPhone OS, you can't find it anywhere else. What you have with an iPad, you can't find it in any other tablet. Not necessarily better, okay? So, but it's not. I'm not saying better. I'm saying uniqueness. They have just carved their products as extremely unique from any other product, okay? And so that's again what has helped the brand value. Remember, brand value is how much more people are going to be willing to pay for product because of the rarity of what they are getting. Your brand value is tied to how rare your product offering, let me not use the word product offering, how rare what you're bringing to the table is. The rarer your, what you're offering is, the higher your brand value. Okay. If you just look at the list and try to on your own maybe think through it, Google, Visa, Alibaba, you notice that each of these brands in the marketplace that they play in, they stand out because you cannot get what you're getting from them anywhere else. Okay, so it's no secret, or it's no surprise rather, that they are top 10 brands in the world. Okay, now let's come down to you as a small business owner, or an entrepreneur or a creative. With what you do, how can you up your own brand value? How can you increase your brand value? How can you stand out amongst the pack? Last week we did some a little bit of a discussion on differentiation, and how to set yourself apart. Now, we're not just saying set yourself apart this time around. We're saying, how do you increase the value of your brand? How do you make yourself more valuable, such that you can now begin to even up your prices, you can earn more, you can be more profitable as a business because your brand has increased in value. Okay, now a few points that I will note. Very simple thing that you can work on today or later on in the week as a small business owner. You don't need a huge budget. You don't need to have a marketing degree. This is just a simple way to actually help your brand value. The first thing you want to do is to sit down and do a sort of map. Identify the different points that your brand comes in contact with your market, with your customers. Now, examples would be social media. That's one access point. Your Instagram page, for example, is one access point. People will find out about what you're doing maybe on your Instagram page or your website. That's an access point. Another access point would be when they call you, or when they DM you, or when they send you a WhatsApp message. Another access point would be maybe at the point of making an order, or however it is. Another access point would be if you do something that you have to deliver to people. That would also be another access point at that point where you actually make your delivery. Another access point would be a major access point actually is when people are interacting with your product. I saw that Afropello Care was here earlier. Afropello is is a organic hair care producer, especially for African hair. And so there'll be points where the customers are actually making use of the product. And if you make shoes, for example, an access point will be when somebody is tying their shoe, actually interacting with the product itself. But that's not the only access point. It could have been an access point where you put out a flyer, somebody picks up a flyer and reads a flyer. That's an access point. So just look at your own business and map out the different access points that your customers would likely have with you. Once you have mapped them out, just write a list on each of them. You can draw a table. What are your access points? Okay, now you want to look at what is obtainable in your market space with each of those access points. Try to just make mental notes, think through it. For example, one access point, like I said earlier, is your Instagram feed or your website. So within your space, what are people doing with their Instagram pages? They post tutorials, they put up ads, maybe a video here and there. What do people do with that particular access point? So this is a lot of work, but I'm encouraging you to do it. For each of those access points, you want to try and drop a list of what is currently obtainable. What do we find regularly around? And then the last thing is, you want to now identify what can I do differently from what is currently obtainable. Remember, brand value is tied to the rarity of what you're bringing to the table. Everything that makes up your brand value is tied to how rare your own input is. What are you bringing into the market? How rare is it? Can we find it everywhere else? If I go from business A to business B, would I see the same thing? And when we see the same thing, the only determining factor becomes price. Price becomes the major defining or determining factor. But if there's something else that we can say is the determining factor, which is what we want to do with you now saying what are my access points and how can I do something different from what is currently obtainable that is still in line with my business and what my business is about, but it's different from what everybody is seeing. So for example, if you say, okay, everybody does social media this way, how about I do it in a different way? What if I turn my social media page into say maybe a lifestyle? I don't know, I'm just thinking it could be anything, you know. What if, okay, everybody in my space is not my space app, in my, you know, business space, everybody who does cakes, for example, usually does on their Instagram page, they post pictures of this, they post pictures of that. What if I turn my page into a mini food channel? I don't know what again, you know your field best. Hello Mr. Yombo, welcome. You know your field best, like I was saying, so you can tell what is appropriate for your field, but I want you to just draw it up and say what's currently available, what can I do differently, right? And then once you can do that for each of your access points, and then you can implement. The truth is you would have upped your brand value by simply aiming for rarity. Like we talked about earlier on in the episode, our top 10 brands in the world. Why they are top 10 is because in their space you cannot actually find any other name that, you know, offers what they do. Like I said, Amazon has so many different diverse products within just that one Amazon name. You can't find that anywhere. With any e-commerce brand, you can't find that there. You know, and on and on and on. Whether it's pricing you want to be known for, whatever it is that you want to be known for, that is rare or that is not easily obtainable in your market space, you note it down. But you want to first start with what are my access points, number 2, what is currently available in my market space, and then number 3, how can I do this, how can I make the experience at each of these access points different from what is currently obtainable. All right, we are at the end of the episode. Miss Yambo, I'm sorry, usually I post like an hour before. This starts 1 p.m. every Monday, right? So usually I put up an ad or a reminder like an hour before on our stories, but I think what I would do is I'll try and get it out earlier so that people can prepare and know that we're going to have another brand my idea. Before we close out though, I should mention we have our food branding webinar tomorrow. It's 7 p.m. There's a link on our bio that you can use to register. We're going to be looking at chocolate branding. Tomorrow is World Chocolate Day. Maybe I have a slight weakness for chocolate, which is why it kind of stood out for me. But chocolate is one of the best branded products in the world. Okay, you have a very ugly looking cocoa seed, you know, and chocolate looks so enticing. It's so, you know, it's really attractive. Yes, it tastes great, but it's one of the best branded products in the world. And so what we want to do with the webinar tomorrow is to try and learn lessons in food branding. So our focus will be food branding, but even if you don't run a food business, I'm sure that you can glean 1 or 2 lessons from there. It's very important to brand food properly because, again, our marketplace is so competitive. You want to have something that stands you out specially. Okay, so please, you know, register with the link on our bio. The link to the webinar will be sent only to people who register. The link will not be made public. So if you would like to attend that, again, it's tomorrow by 7 p.m. We would have it for about 45 minutes to an hour, and then we'll be done for the day. All right, thank you so much. It was amazing. Do we have any questions? I'm not sure if there are any questions before we wrap it up for today, and then so that you can go ahead and have an amazing week. Do we have any questions? No, I can't see any question. But if you have a question later, you know, you watch this on our IGTV or wherever, and you have a question, our DMs are open. Please just throw us a DM. Thank you, Dejalaka. I'm really glad you had an awesome time. Thank you so much. Okay, all right. Have a lovely week ahead. We're glad to have you today. It was amazing. Thank you so much.